Hi, I'm David with EV World News. We're talking about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. And I'm here today on a Friday with a special guest today, Bobby Primus from Oasis Amps. How are you doing, Bobby? You are muted.
Am I muted?
You were. You're not anymore.
Okay. Very good. Hang on.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. You're in Florida. I'm in Nebraska. It's -6 here. We have a dash in front of the temperature. That's not
What?
the wind chill. It's like -23 wind chill.
Yeah.
What is it like down in South Florida?
I'm getting ready to walk to out to the supermarket in shorts. So we don't have a minus anywhere. And any snow you see will be dandruff. It won't be actual snow.
Oh man. Atlanta's supposed to get like a couple inches of ice. I mean,
Yeah,
ice,
I heard
not
it's gonna
snow,
fall off.
ice. That's
Yeah.
going to be just terrible.
That's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, because what that's going to do is going to drag down power lines and things like that, and it's going to be a real problem. Yeah, you did, yeah, but fortunately, we're not getting the storm. We're just getting cold. So I'm fine with the cold.
That's enough.
It's just a little bit of a nuisance. It's not as much as having to go out and shovel or worry about driving somewhere when it's bad.
I left my shovel into New York.
There you go.
I'm done.
So the International Energy Agency put out a report that's saying that global car sales in 2024, so a year and a half ago, was around 80 million cars. Now, of that in pure internal combustion engine sales worldwide since 2017, so over a 7-year span, declined by 30%. You're going to see, EVs are dying. It's like, well, actually, that's not what's dying. Internal combustion engine cars have gone down in sales by 30%. Now, and at the same time, worldwide, we're now having multiple countries that are over 50% of all new car sales are EVs. The US just happens to be sticking down around 10. The US is the one that's dragging behind. Let me see. China and emerging economies, so not just China, but emerging economies, represent half of global car sales, a 20% increase since 2000. Now, China is almost 1/4 of all the world's car sales. I think they sell 20 million cars and out of those 80 million. But of those 20 million, more than 10 million are EVs.
Yeah, that's phenomenal.
It's staggering how much they produce there. Europe and North America contribute each contribute about 15% of world automotive production. So the US and Europe only produce 30% of the world's cars. China accounts for 40% of global automotive manufacturing now.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
You just can't stand still with technology, because just because you don't like it don't mean it'll stop. It'll never stop. It'll just grow up around you, and then you get left holding the bag. I remember my orientation with IBM years ago. They were saying that Russia was one of the first to do multi-bit processing computers in the early 50s. And then they got stuck. They couldn't get any new parts. And then IBM came in, took the lead, and Russia's not even on the map again. So to stand by the side and says, "Oh, we're not going to do anything about it," just means you get left behind when other countries now are going to surpass you in product. Technology never works like that.
Well, I look at it in the nuclear space. In the nuclear space, the only commercially operating 4th generation nuclear reactor is in China, built with U.S. technology. U.S. scientists help make them. Owen, I don't know what the percentage might be for Mexico. So the article only talked about Europe and the U.S. I would imagine it's less than that, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's 10%. So, but I don't know what that might be. Automotive accounts for 6% of global steel demand and 17% of aluminum demand. But although that's much higher in major automotive economies. Let's see. Shanghai operates 26 battery manufacturing facilities. Just the city of Shanghai. It represents about 5% of global capacity. Let's see. Hi, I'm from India. Hi, well, hello there from India. It must be late. It's kind of late in the evening there for you. Let's see. Chinese firms control around 80% of battery-related manufacturing capacity. Now, I know they're dominant in battery storage and all that. And it's funny with the pivot that Ford and GM are making on some of their EV production. They're now trying to take their battery production and scaling it over for battery energy storage systems, because that market is predicted to 10x in the next 10 years.
Wow, that's phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, and of course, what are you usually using the battery storage to back up? Usually wind and solar, right? Because other sources like LNG, you can just turn it off and turn it back on. The energy is the storage system. Or I'm sorry, the fuel is the storage system. Let's see. Manufacturing cars in China costs less than in advanced economies, particularly for EVs, largely due to large-scale production and extensive vertical integration. And they're doing a lot of robotics over there. People always think it's because of the cheap labor, but they're automating a lot of processes.
And I wonder what is going to be the effect on the power grid when all these Optimus robots. I mean, when you start talking about, even though the batteries are less significant than vehicles, when you're plugging in thousands and thousands across the country, that's going to do something. That power has to come from somewhere, you would think, right?
Well, maybe the robots will be smart enough to plug in when the grid is less stressed.
Yeah, they'll know. They'll get that signal from Elon and say, it's time, baby. We do that energy arbitrage and see where we can get that power cheap.
You hear your robot making a ruckus in the kitchen at 2 a.m. while it's going to look for an electric outlet.
I must plug in. Yeah.
It's 2 a.m. I'm going to go plug in. Yeah.
Or you walk into your garage and you see it trying to jack your Tesla and try to get a little juice out of your vehicle. It's highway robbery.
Oh man. Yeah, you wonder, everything's kind of electric. I don't know if you remember this thing. I remember one day I was looking somewhere and somebody had fully designed an engineering design for a 2-stroke motor electric toothbrush. So people who are complaining about EVs can get a gas-powered toothbrush.
That's all I need. Wow.
Just fire that thing up.
Yeah. That would be scary. Actually, I saw on your website where the guy invented the energy producing shock absorber.
Yeah.
That is phenomenal.
Yeah. So the idea there is, as the vehicle goes down the road, the shock absorbers return more power back to the batteries. Yeah.
Wow. That's phenomenal.
In theory, it increases the range probably only 10%.
But still,
that's something, right?
But
it's increasing energy out of nothing. Yeah. So if you looked at all of the patents that X-Lights owns in the electric vehicle space, there's a couple of them that are like another device using magnets to capture
Mhm.
more energy. It's all in the wheel well because that's
Right.
where the energy is expended, right? So it's
Right.
recapturing energy in the wheel well, whether it be from the vehicle motion. There was even a design that had like water in the car that as the water
Mm.
sloshed back and forth, it
Oh
would
yeah.
spin something and you get
There's
some kind
something.
of hydroelectric energy.
Any kind of
As-
motion.
yeah, any
Yeah.
kind of motion. Um, yeah, so I
That's
don't know about
phenomenal.
the sidewalks in Japan. I'm not
Yeah.
sure what that was referencing. Yeah, sorry, um,
Mm.
I lost my context, but you know, um, just saying it's funny to see some of these things change. But it's nice seeing some U.S. battery production, but now it seems like so much of that is shifting into the energy storage systems.
Which
But
means to me that prices overall, because you already had the manufacturers doing storage solutions. Now
Mhm.
you add another major player to that, prices got to drop,
Well,
right? I
they
mean,
have
they can't
dropped
go up.
dramatically.
They got to
They, I
come
mean,
down to the floor.
what's funny is a lot of people think that somehow, um, oh, that's kind of cool. They have sidewalks that generate electricity when people step on them.
Step on them. I
That,
saw that.
yeah, that's
Yeah, I
I
saw
didn't know
that.
that's pretty interesting to see. I often think they need to harness all the treadmills and exercise bikes at my
Mhm.
gym, and
Yeah.
power the gym. Yeah, but it's oh, I lost my train of thought. I hate when that happens. That's bad part about getting old. Yeah,
Yeah, I
but
feel you.
yeah, um, but yeah, a lot of people think that lithium is like a precious metal, and it's one of
Yeah.
the most common elements on Earth.
It's
And
dirty to get, but that's
I
all.
yeah, there's a lot of people though, and I think what it is, I get these emails about, oh, somebody's found a new lithium mine. Here's how to invest in that, and it's like there's
Why?
not like some
Yeah.
shortage of lithium out there,
Yeah.
you know.
And there's chemists and scientists all around trying to go totally sodium ion batteries and get rid of lithium as uh, a component in batteries.
Yeah, there's a couple of technologies where they're trying to get away from lithium, but who
Mhm.
knows how those will all play out. I mean, lithium
Right.
ion batteries have been a great thing since the mid 90s,
Yes, of course.
and really electric vehicles wouldn't really exist if the lithium ion battery hadn't been invented because
Yeah.
the older formulations
Lead,
really didn't
lead
hold
acid.
power the same way.
No.
Um, there was all kinds of different issues with older style batteries on how you charge them. Because I remember when I first started getting cell phones, my cell phones either had the nickel metal hydride or the lithium ion batteries. And as you
Mhm.
started getting into the small,
Flip phones.
the flip phones, and the phones were more this sized,
Mhm.
um, they all were with lithium ion batteries. But before that, my Army field radio size cell phone, that was the
That
big brick.
walkie-talkie, that
Yeah,
Motorola
yeah,
walkie-talkie, I had the first
yeah,
version of it.
yeah.
Yeah.
They had the nickel metal hydride batteries, and
They were
they,
horrible.
yeah, yeah, and the same Owen with the cordless tools. Yeah, everything switched to lithium ion now. The funny thing is, they won't let you store that stuff in the cargo hold on the airplane. They're always worried that all those lithium
Yeah.
ion batteries are going to catch fire on the
Catch
plane.
fire. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and that's because it's happened.
It has. It really
Yeah,
has. It's
yeah,
scary to think.
yeah. But anyways, I wanted to share that though about that 7 year thing. In 7 years, that 30% there was a 30% drop in the sales of gas cars, and at the same
Mhm.
time, EVs filled in that gap.
Yeah. But
So
I think with full self-driving, I think
mhm,
less than 30 years that car ownership will be the thing of a past. You won't need it. I mean, when I do tech work, I need it because, if a bank is down or a Walmart, their server is down, I can't sit at a charger for 40 minutes or 30 minutes or 20
mhm,
minutes because they're paying me by the minute and by the mile.
right.
And so I got to get gas and keep going. But as charging as range increases, battery prices go down, and FSD comes on. I hit a button. why would I ever wash a car again or take a car to a service center to get an oil change or get a O2 sensor replaced or do all of those maintenance things when I could get a clean car every time and not
Mhm.
worry about the insurance, the expense, or anything. All I got to do to remember is take everything that I put in that car out of that car every time.
Or you're thinking about the car as a subscription.
As a subscription, well, as needed. Like now,
Right.
if I don't need an Uber, I don't have to pay them on the month
Right.
to get one. I just
Right.
hit the button, it shows up at my house,
Hmm.
right?
Hopefully.
And so once you take out the driver,
Right.
that's probably what half of your cost of driving,
Hmm.
maybe more.
Yeah, there's no question that gas engines are far less reliable than EVs. It's really sad, and this is a lot of, I hear people pushing this in dealerships, trying to dissuade people from buying an EV, but it doesn't serve a car dealership's long-term interests to sell
Right.
EVs because of the lack of maintenance.
Yes.
That's a
That's their bread
real.
and butter. That's their bread and butter. They could
Yeah.
lose on the sale of the car because they're going to make it back up on the back end of service.
Yeah. It's different. I mean, you can only change tires so often, things
Yeah.
like that. All right.
Yeah.
So Elon Musk says Tesla robotaxis will be widespread in the US by the end of 2026. So by the end of this year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Musk and what he says almost usually comes true, but he's not always real good on his dates.
Yeah, we
Okay.
call it Elon guesstimation.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm not sure how much I take this.
Although yesterday in Texas, they said that they've been removing the safety driver from the vehicle. They've been taking fair rides without a driver or a supervisor in the car.
Mhm.
That's what the YouTube people are saying that they've been seeing in Texas yesterday.
Yeah.
So maybe they've made that next step.
No, well, that's a lot of it. I mean, they just started operating with no safety monitors in Austin, which was a major milestone, but raising security concerns. But all of the accidents that the Teslas have had have been they've been like they just touched something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not been anything catastrophic. Yeah. Waymo dominates with service in 5 U.S. markets, including Miami, which just got launched, while Tesla still lacks California permits for driverless operation on public roads. I still haven't taken a Waymo yet. Okay. I have the app downloaded, and when I travel, I couldn't tell you how many times it's like, oh, let's see how much a Waymo is to my destination. And it's always at least double
Really?
what an Uber or a Lyft would be. Yeah,
Yeah,
Uber or
but they
Lyft for
have so
40
much
bucks, Waymo's
technology.
80.
They have so much extra technology with the radar, the lidar. It's not just cameras. They're not getting out cheap like Tesla is.
Yeah.
And the vehicles that they're using is just so much more expensive than a
Jaguars.
Model 3 or whatever. Yeah, there's
I'll tell you, for some of these car brands like Range Rover and Jaguar, where they have a history of being expensive to maintain, those vehicle brands really make sense as EVs, because when you have less to maintain and less that can go wrong, they're a whole lot safer bet for holding on for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that Google probably recognizes that when they buy them for Waymo.
Yeah.
And of course they want to have it be a first class ride and all that, but still,
Yeah.
because they are, I remember seeing, basically they're paying about 60,000 for the car and another 200,000+ for the electronics they're putting on the car.
Wow. So that's why the price is twice as much.
Yeah. I mean, you're riding around in basically an almost $300,000 as equipped vehicle.
And this is why the cyber cab is going to eat their lunch, because it's going to be a small thing. You're not dating the vehicle. You're going to get it and be on your device most of the time. You only care about when you get there, and you're going to pay pennies on the dollar in comparison, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be cheaper. There's no
Mhm.
That's for certain. All right. Here's something I thought was kind of interesting. So, Lucid's gotten some bad press lately because the fact that the stock is not been in great
Mhm.
shape,
Yeah.
and the god of the universe. I don't know if I'd call Elon that. And we're not disrespecting Elon.
No, not at all.
Yeah,
The man's a genius, without
yeah.
a doubt. He's a genius.
Yeah, there's so many things where Elon is advancing the human race. It's
Yeah.
hard to argue with, but he's not perfect. And his
There you
his
go.
his
Nobody.
his date estimations, he's expecting everybody to get stuff done when on his timeline, and
Yeah.
it doesn't always happen. I don't know if he's constantly firing people over that or not, but I know he gets pretty disgusted. I mean, he's fired entire departments before,
Yeah.
you know,
Absolutely.
for so who knows? But this Lucid information that I'm about to give is kind of interesting because Lucid's stock is kind of at like an all-time low. But one of the things I talk about all the time is they're backed by the Saudi royal family.
They got
Okay.
oil money.
And the Saudis have talked about just taking the stock private. If you are
Mm.
holding the stock and they take it private, you usually get anywhere from a 20 to 50% premium over
Mm.
what it's currently worth when they
Very
take it
nice.
private. Yeah, so you're
Mhm.
not losing, you're not left holding the bag, and I don't see them doing this. So Lucid CEO Marc Winterhoff says the company is well underway to move completely away from China in 2026 following China's rare earth export restrictions.
Wow.
And um, they're really focusing on Saudi Arabia. They're ramping up local sourcing in Saudi Arabia as it
Wow.
prepares full manufacturing at its West Coast plant by year end.
Hmm.
They have an order for 50,000 vehicles from the Saudi government.
Wow.
Yeah. So 2 years ago, I think it was 24, they only produced like 9,000 vehicles. Last year, I think
Mm.
they did like 15 or 16,000
Yeah.
vehicles. The
Yeah.
Gravity is now selling in the US, which they went from their ultra luxury to kind of trying to compete with the Model Y.
Hmm.
Okay. But I really think their real growth is in the Middle East. So
So are
they're
these
going
going to
to,
be autonomous vehicles in Saudi, or is it going to be just regular household vehicles people drive?
so they've discussed autonomous Lucid Gravities before, but these are just regular government
Regular
vehicles.
vehicles.
They're
Wow.
switching them all from gas. Where
Mm.
you can get super cheap gas, they're switching to EV over there.
You would think gas prices over there is a nickel a gallon or something. I mean, they're literally making the oil,
Yeah.
and they're going electric.
I remember years ago when we were paying oh probably $3 to $4 a gallon for gas back when Bush Jr. was president. I took some
Mhm.
guys came over from Dubai and went fishing with me in Palm Beach,
Wow.
and yeah, one of them was from Iran, and he
Wow.
was saying in Iran at that time, while we were paying over $3 a gallon, gas was like 30 cents a gallon.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah,
Back to
they kept it
70s
cheap.
prices.
Yeah, they kept it like that for the population, the stuff they
Yeah.
weren't
Yeah.
exporting. Yeah, but
Absolutely.
I thought that was kind of fascinating. Yeah.
Wow.
Um, but anyways, yeah, 50,000 vehicles. So they've never produced that in a year. Now this is also kind of the same thing with Rivian a little bit. So Rivian's had that ongoing order from Amazon for 100,000 delivery vans. I think they've only
Mhm.
delivered 25,000 of those.
Wow.
Okay. So they're still cranking those out every year, but I think they're only delivering 10 to 15,000 a year.
I wonder why, because I thought Amazon was boasting about how much money in fuel it was saving, especially when gas prices peaked. They were saving a ton and the drivers was loving the electric vehicles because they had to do so much less every time they had to get out of that vehicle and didn't have to put on the emergency brake and didn't have to lock this and lock. They just got out, deliver a
Mhm.
package, and get back in and drive off. They just love them.
Okay, so they've put in service 35,000 so far.
Wow. I wonder
Yeah.
why it's so
So,
slow.
yeah. Oh, it's supposed to be 100,000 by 2030. So they
Oh
expect
wow.
to have over, this 5-year span. that they will deliver the other 65,000.
I guess
I
the
guess
other
that's
part too
reasonable.
is you got to put infrastructure in to charge that many at one location. So the
So
infrastructure has to be ahead of the delivery of the vehicles, else you'll be like Hertz. They bought all these vehicles and then didn't have a charger to charge them on.
that
Like
was
they
just
were just
goofy.
going to wake up. It's crazy
Yeah, Hertz did not plan that well.
at
And then
all. You
people
could,
act like people just don't want them. But the problem you have too is you go and you rent an EV. And so, like one of my friends, he owns a Tesla. He always tries to rent a Tesla when he's on the road, but he can use his regular Tesla app to go charge everything. He's used to the Tesla network. He said it that way. When you go rent one of the vehicles and you don't own vehicles
oh,
and
yeah.
you're not set up on those apps,
Mhm.
you don't know where to go charge it. You don't know really what to do with it. It's kind of a miserable experience for people.
And instead of them, people didn't want to rent electric vehicles because they didn't understand them. They didn't know where to charge it. They didn't know anything
Right.
about. And so instead of sending someone out there to get these people in the comfort zone, they said, here's your key, have fun. And so you get a lot of them calling in, say this car died along the side of the road. And when you investigate, you find out the car went into creep mode, but they didn't understand. They're still thinking gas. Oh, the car's breaking down. No, this thing needs to be charged, but no one told them how to do it. And so it
No.
was one disaster after another, and people stopped wanting to mess with them at all.
Yeah. That's about 13,000 vans a year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's decent
That's,
production. I guess they've been in no
yeah.
huge hurry to get that taken care of. All right, let's see here.
It seems like
Um,
UPS would do the same too, though. Right or no? Eventually.
I haven't seen a electric UPS van yet.
I haven't either.
Doesn't mean they don't exist, but that is
Yeah.
not something I've seen. Let's see. They have 1,000 step trucks that are electric.
Yeah. I mean, because you would think that if somebody as big as Pepsi Cola go to, electric tractors and trailers and say how great they are just because of the not even just savings on fuel, but the lack of maintenance that they skip. It just seems like everybody would be rushing towards this, and it just seems a little odd that the industries in general aren't flocking to it faster than they are.
Take a wild guess at the total fleet size of UPS. Total number of vehicles.
I have no idea.
Staggering. 340,000 vehicles.
Wow.
That's globally. That includes 115,000 package delivery trucks. And of those, 18,000 are alternative fuel vehicles. That could be electric, hybrid, CNG, LNG, propane, and others. But only about 1,000 of those are fully battery electric. So they certainly haven't done what Amazon. Now, Mike Herzog, that's our Wednesday guy, he's consulted on some of these Amazon warehouse installations. They'll have 200 chargers.
Yeah.
Now, I've never really asked. I'm assuming most of those chargers are probably level 2. But I don't know that because they run those vans a lot of hours, but they certainly do sit there for the night. So I don't know if they run any faster charging or not.
I don't think the batteries in them are that big, so they can charge overnight. Because you figure they'll start charging 7, 8 o'clock at night until 6 o'clock in the morning. They have all night to charge.
I think they're only supposed to have a 200-mile range.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the drivers don't. Well, depending on where they're at, a driver may only drive like 30 miles. So they might drive 10 miles to their neighborhood and then drive 10 miles unloading the truck and then 10 miles back to the station. It's just that in those 30 miles, they might have stopped 100 times.
Right. Yeah. But you would think all that stopping and starting the regen would keep that battery alive, so that when if they were selling power back to the grid, that should be extra income. They come in, plug in at 6 in the afternoon. Everybody's coming home, turn on their air conditioning and their ovens to cook, and then they could arbitrage. They could sell that back to the grid, and then 12 o'clock at night start charging for the next day.
Yeah, I sometimes wonder how well vehicle to grid and the vehicle arbitrage, if that will ever really become a thing. I mean, you and I both know it's a reasonable idea, right? But
Mhm.
there's questions on, can the grid really, can they install software that can make that kind of work and really regulate how that's going? I mean, I know, like, I sell solar back to the grid every day, and then they sell it back to me at night, right? I don't pay
Mhm.
any extra. I get the same. Basically the grid acts as my battery, right?
Mhm.
But I don't know how well eventually that works. I've had some people in the industry really question if V to G really can be everything we sometimes hope for here on the show. I mean, we see all the examples, like with school bus setups as big clusters. And I've really talked
Mhm.
about how if you had commercial trucks, you know, that, or, like the cement mixer thing we showed. I mean, that would be such a
Mhm.
great grid stabilizer.
I would be.
Owen, the 87 EV fires, it's crazy how much people think EVs catch on fire. Um, the rate, now this is what's kind of weird. So hybrid cars catch on fire twice as often per mile as gas cars because they have all the extra electronics. And almost all of your gas car fires really are started in the electrical system. So
Yeah.
it's really rare that you just have gasoline just spontaneously combust.
Mhm.
But the actual rate of gas car fires per mile to EV car fires per mile is 60 to 1.
Yeah, wow.
And it's
Thanks,
120
thanks.
to 1 hybrids versus straight EVs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think a lot of times when people think there's been EV fires, it's hybrids being misreported.
Yeah.
There's far more hybrid fires than there are EV fires, even though there's not that many hybrids out there.
Well, you consider anytime, even if you had a valve cover oil leak on
Hmm.
a hybrid, it still has that you're putting oil next
Hmm.
to hot electricity.
Right.
You're just waiting for an explosion.
Yeah. No, it's very true. So the EV slowdown here in the US has created a lifeline for grid battery storage. Slower EV adoption is freeing up battery cell capacity with LG, Samsung, SDI, and SK. They're repurposing EV gigafactories for grid scale battery energy storage systems. Um, Chinese battery tariffs jumped from 37.5 to 55% in January, driving a domestic manufacturing surge to here in the US. Industry expects oversupply of domestic battery capacity in 26 to 28, eliminating need for Chinese batteries entirely.
Wow.
Yeah.
But that's
I,
why EV prices are going to drop through the floor because batteries, the major component and the expense, it is just going to fall so much that ICE engines aren't going to be able. They almost can't compete now from a service standpoint. But from a price standpoint, they won't even be in the same ballpark anymore.
yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting with them now allowing up to 49,000 Chinese EVs into
In
Canada
Canada,
a year.
yeah.
Yeah, that's going to make things a little different. Here was kind of an interesting topic. Rivian pledges $4.6 million for Washington State direct sales ballot initiative. So they're funding a ballot measure to end Tesla's monopoly on direct consumer EV sales in Washington State.
Huh.
Tesla has been the sole exception to dealership laws for over a decade. Rivian and Lucid can only operate showrooms. They cannot sell vehicles.
Wow.
Yeah. 2025 legislation died in committee chaired by Representative Amy Whalen, who's a Democrat from Kirkland, who owns car dealerships.
Ah.
The ethics board found no conflict of interest.
Of course. It's like the SEC or the FTC saying, "Oh, we can't let crypto go wild and give people yield on their crypto because it'll take money from the banks." Hello, what do you think we're trying to do? It's crazy.
Yeah.
Protect your own house. Forget about everybody else.
Yeah, when you're investigating yourself, it's interesting how some of those self-investigations go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, all right. So Tesla's AI5 chip entering production um, here in 26. It says 2H, second H. It's not second quarter. I don't know what 2H might mean. Anyways, vertical integration play. Tesla's AI5 chip will match NVIDIA's $30,000 Blackwell B200 performance, giving Tesla full control over AI training and inference. Small number of units arriving in late 26, high volume production pushed to 27. It reduces Tesla's reliance on NVIDIA and gives them competitive advantage in AI and autonomous driving development. You know, Musk and friends bought Twitter for what, like 40, was it $42 billion or something like
I
that?
think
It was
so.
something in
Yeah, I
that
think so.
ballpark. And
Yeah.
now they've combined Twitter, X, whatever, with XAI, and it currently has a valuation of almost 300 billion.
Wow.
I know it's at
Money
least
makes
250
money.
billion. I remember seeing something the other day where it had added like 125 billion to Musk's net worth, and now his net worth
Yeah.
is right at almost 800 billion dollars.
Wow.
I mean, it's crazy. He's getting there. Next year, I suspect he becomes a trillionaire.
He'll
So,
meet his contract obligations. I think with the AI versions of the Teslas, um, AI4 that's in current Teslas is hardware one. AI5 that'll be in Teslas will be H2, and then
mhm.
6 will only be in Optimus. That's what I've read. I'm not sure if you
Okay.
could validate all that,
I
but
haven't
that
followed that.
H2, so that H1, the AI4 is supposed to be equal to human drivers.
Mhm.
AI5 is supposed to be far beyond the ability of human drivers. And so AI6 won't need to go in the cars because AI5 will be able to go in all future cars because of its fake capability, according to what I
Nice.
read. Yeah.
All right. Xiaomi, the cell phone manufacturer that keeps selling hundreds of thousands of EVs, that
Yeah.
look pretty cool. They look like cheap Porsche knockoffs.
Yeah.
Um, but their SUV, the SU7 Max,
Hmm.
drove 2,650 miles in 24 hours. So that's
Wow.
a little over, that's driving at over 100 miles per hour.
Hmm.
It did this on a continuous 24-hour run. I'm assuming it's on a racetrack, but
Wow.
it's 897 volt system with 530 kilowatt fast charging and a 101.7 kilowatt hour battery, minimized downtime during the run. So the idea was to show it could go these distances, recharge, and get back at it. And this broke the record. It had previously been held by Xpeng. This is something the Chinese decided to do. Here, I think they should have, a test of robots trying to catch wild turkeys. Here, they're trying to see how far they can drive an EV in 24 hours.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Demonstrates how rapidly Chinese EV makers like Xiaomi, which is traditionally a phone company, are advancing battery
Mhm.
and charging technology. But
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy. This is a cell phone company.
Company, yeah.
You
But
know,
when you have the government pumping billions of dollars into an industry, you could do stuff like that.
you know,
You know?
you know what I see as kind of an interesting path. I was thinking this morning, you have Siri on the iPhone, right? And you have Hey Google on the Android. And I use this AI I like called GenSpark. And I'm sitting here thinking, man, GenSpark should release some phones. I want GenSpark as what I can just talk to. I'm tired of talking to these other ones because they don't do quite what GenSpark does. And I'm like,
Mm.
I eventually see some of these AI companies. So a couple of companies like OpenAI are announcing, they're not saying what this Johnny or Joni, whatever it is, device that they have coming out is going to be. But to me, I'm sitting here thinking, man, what if it's a competitor for the iPhone? I mean, it really wouldn't be that surprised to see the AI companies coming out with a more AI standardized phone.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, I remember when Tim Cook said some crap about Elon Musk. Musk goes, go ahead, say what you want. I'll create a cell phone and I'll bury you guys.
And he will. Just hide and watch.
and Apple backed off, and Musk dropped
I
off
bet he
from
did.
talking about releasing a cell phone. It's like, a Tesla cell phone would crush the market.
It would tear it up. Because every Tesla owner would be the first one to get it. And then everybody else would be like, yeah, to get this stuff to all be one. Wow, that's crazy. That is crazy.
All right, back to my favorite topic, nuclear energy. Nuclear ambitions should far exceed the 2050 goal of tripling nuclear energy. That's the COP28 goal, was to triple capacity by 2050. But the new wave of modular reactors are the face of the American nuclear renaissance. Although it's funny, experts sound safety alarms. Well, there's still a lot of Gen 3 stuff, which is fairly safe. And the Gen 4 stuff is coming. And I'm kind of into the Generation 4 nuclear is what I usually talk about, because it's been determined as being inherently safe. It doesn't need supervision. Once you set it and install it, you have to come back every 6 years and refuel it.
I'm sorry. So this is fission, not fusion.
Fission. Yeah.
Fission. Yeah. So how is it cooled?
Helium.
Very cool.
Yeah. So there's a helium in the reactor that the reactor still runs at about 900 degrees, and the helium, it can go all the way to about 1600 Celsius, but the helium will cool it back down. And helium does not absorb radioactivity. So if you release the thing and let the helium out, there's no radiation released from that.
So there is no rods that regulate the power like in a regular nuclear reactor.
No, it's different. It uses this thing called trisofuel. Looks like little ball bearings. Uranium is encapsulated in graphite.
Okay. So there's no waste. There's no radioactive waste.
No. That's not true. That does not get rid of radioactive waste. But there are technologies we're looking at that are out there and the technology in particular we're looking at, they want to call themselves 5th generation. Some people call fusion as 5th generation nuclear, but this technology will take the half-life of the spent fuel from 10,000 years to 150. It's going to go from being basically geological age to human age.
Very cool.
So, but it's squeezing 99% of the energy out of the uranium, whereas in the US, we only squeeze out our traditional reactors. We have only squeezed out 25% of the energy out of the uranium. So the old Gen 2 reactors don't do a very good job of using the fuel they use. Not saying, I mean, they're effective at creating energy, right? And doing it fairly cheaply. I mean, the big facilities produce energy for 3-4 cents a kilowatt hour at the site. But they're always a long ways away from civilization, or generally, so there's lots of transmission cost. Okay. But the small modular reactors are probably going to be more in the 6 to 8 or 9 cent range, but you're going to locate them right where the energy is needed and get rid of the infrastructure
money
cost.
On transmission.
Yeah. So there's a couple of ways of looking at that. And the small ones don't need like a nuclear exclusion zone or safety zone. So it's different. You're going to put them right where the data center is, right where manufacturing is, where the energy is needed.
So let's say you were going to do just a community of residential homes. How many homes would that thing run?
So reasonably, a megawatt will support about 500 homes in the United States. If you had really big homes, it'd be less than that. But the situation is like most time when you see a cooling tower on an old style nuclear power plant, they're 1 gigawatt per cooling tower.
Mhm.
Okay, just rough estimate, and that's about 500,000 homes. Let's say that serves maybe 2 million people.
Mhm.
Now, if you look at this in China, they say a gigawatt supports 4 million homes.
Mm.
Okay, but they don't have the same level of energy
Electrical
usage in
usage.
that
Yeah.
that we have here. So,
Well, I in the early 80s when Duke Power, now Duke Energy, was building Catawba Nuclear Station in McGuire. I was
mhm,
there on the scene. So I've been in nuclear reactors under constructions, and these huge steam generators that convert the steam into, I was so disappointed to realize, because I got Star Trek in my mind, that they are boiling water to turn a turbine in another building. I
yeah,
didn't realize that. I was so disappointed. I thought, oh, this nuclear power is good, and it just wasn't that. But inside these facilities, you had all of these pipes going around in circle, and you had them different segments and colors. It was just phenomenally engineered, and each weld that you put on the pipe had to be x-rayed to make sure that there was no pinholes in it. So you want to know why it takes so long for the what's it, NRC, NCR, whatever they call it,
yeah,
had to
NRC.
had to had to video, and then you had to document every single well, and it had to be labeled, and the pictures and the x-rays had to go to the federal government. It just took forever. And
Yeah,
so if you got a solution better than that, that is awesome.
so in the fourth generation reactors, it doesn't use the water, it doesn't boil steam, but it
Mhm.
does spin a turbine that comes out of helicopters. So I'm not
Um,
sure exactly. It's something to do with the high temperature that the helicopters are used to. I don't
mm,
understand the technology at all. I know the turbine
mm,
has to be serviced every 2,000 hours,
yeah.
um, which that's not really a long time. Like that's every couple of months.
Every couple of months to be
Yeah,
offline and down.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, but the it doesn't do the same steam setup.
I love the
All right.
technology.
Yep. All right. The United Kingdom wasted 10 terawatt hours of wind power in 2025, enough for all of London. UK curtailed 10 terawatts of hours of wind in 2025 because transmission lines couldn't move the power from Scotland to the demand centers.
Wow.
Operators paid wind farms 1.4 billion pounds to shut down, then paid gas plants to replace the lost power. The
Wow.
infrastructure gap highlights a critical need for grid upgrades to handle renewable energy, relevant to US as we add more wind and solar. Wow.
So
That's
why is it because it was too many step up and step downs from the source? Is that what the problem is?
I think it was just too far across the United Kingdom to send it from Scotland.
Oh, okay. Just distance. Just
Yeah.
sheer distance. Because I thought they stepped it up out of the generation plant to get it to go the further distance and then step it down to go into residential or business areas, I thought. But this has been what? This 1980. That was I don't remember all that
Yeah, I
stuff.
don't know. All right.
Yeah.
California has a $200 million EV rate rebate, but it'll probably only cover 20% of sales that they had last year. Um, Governor Newsom's proposed $200 million EV rebate program will cover only about 20% of the EV sales volume. Rebates may not reach consumers until 2027, creating
Wow.
a significant gap. So I guess they're giving that on people's California income taxes.
Mm.
Experts warn the funding shortfall could slow EV adoption momentum in the nation's largest EV market. That was one thing that really did help was when they started making the federal tax incentive at the point of sale. I mean, that was
Yeah.
a
They
you know
opened the faucet on that. That was awesome.
yes.
It took all the guesswork out. Whether I would qualify it during my tax season was over. It's crazy.
You know, here's something kind of interesting. So, U.S. state policy is increasingly central to clean energy deployment. Virginia, for example, is being highlighted as a bellwether where lawmakers can cut costs and improve reliability by accelerating solar, wind, and storage while modernizing grid infrastructure. I've talked about this. They just had the election. So, they have an election every year in Virginia.
Mhm.
It's kind of crazy for their Commonwealth House of Delegates. And
Mhm.
this past one was an energy election, and
Mhm.
Trump kind of backfired on the Republicans there because he's been pushing all of the oil and gas. And
Mhm.
while everybody, both parties seem to like nuclear, both
Mhm.
there's not as much pushback from politicians on nuclear as one would expect from either party, but um, the Republicans had said, they didn't want to see more wind and solar. And
That's crazy.
and that's considered to be one of the key reasons why out of 100 delegates, the Democrats picked up 9 spots
Wow.
in that election. Yeah,
That's
I mean,
crazy.
yeah, it's just nuts
Mhm.
to think about. Um, let's see. The U.S. Department of Energy has committed about $800 million in cost-shared funding for 2 specific SMR projects, one with the TVA in Tennessee at Clinch River and one with Holtec at the Palisades in Michigan, giving clearer project pathways than many earlier concepts. So that's something kind of new.
Mhm.
Um, the funny thing is, I keep seeing a lot of money being invested into fusion, and fusion, while theoretically it's going to be cheaper,
Mhm.
I'm not so sure how much of an effect this has. This is one of the things I talk about with people all the time. Is we talk about there's a cost to make the electricity, cost to transmit, then you got profit, and you add those three things together, and that's what the end consumer pays.
Mhm.
Well, um, yeah, I get that people don't necessarily like the look of wind farms, but it's just another tool. I mean, I live in a part of the country where we get a very large percentage of our energy. I mean, Iowa next to us, that's their number one energy source is wind. I mean, yeah, people say, well, what do you do when the wind isn't blowing? It's like, have you been to Iowa? You know,
The wind's always blowing.
it's always blowing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and here in Nebraska, it pretty much always is too. It's weird to have a calm day. But that being said, um, it, when it comes to oh shoot, um, when things like fusion energy, you just don't know how soon that's going to come about. But what I was trying to do was compare. So I was saying SMR nuclear might produce power anywhere from like 6 to 9 cents. I've seen some of the companies say we might get it down to 3, 4 cents. Okay.
Wow.
But your big nuclear facilities that are like 50, 60 years old, that they're refurbishing the reactor and redoing it, well, those are going to put out energy for like 2 or 3 cents a kilowatt.
Wow.
Okay, so it's cheaper, right? But the idea is that fission, so many years ago in the 50s, they said nuclear energy was going to be free.
Mhm.
Okay, the problem is all the regulations they put around the safety and
Mhm.
everything. You're talking about X-raying every weld, um,
Mhm.
made it ridiculous,
Made it
and it
crazy
almost
ridiculous.
it really accelerated the cost of
Mhm.
producing a reactor. But with fission, and fission is regulated different. Fission, I'm sorry, not fission. Fusion is regulated under the same rules as nuclear medical devices,
Oh, really?
as
That's different.
opposed to fission, which is regulated on a much different level.
Different
Okay.
level. Yeah.
Um, yeah, they had to have government assistance to reach the 2 cent per kilowatt, but they're trying to say that fusion might give us 1 cent a kilowatt. But my answer to that is you have all this investment going in to make this happen. And let's say the difference is that realistically, let's say fusion is able to produce power 2 cents cheaper than fission, which is easier to locate with SMRs and things like that. You're going to more than burn up those 2 cents in transmission most of the time.
Mhm.
Far more I mean, you got parts of the country that are spending 20 cents or more on transmission and infrastructure. Okay.
Mhm.
So the idea there, you're going to have some cost to bring that energy to market, regardless of where it's located at. Although
Absolutely.
I do see, once again, some of the ideas with fission is they're going to locate the plant right next door to a data center that's the big user. So, I mean, that's one of the ideas for alleviating some of that. But it's just, yeah, I'm just saying the realities aren't always what people think. So, anyways,
Mhm.
Bobby, that's all I got today. We ran for almost an hour. I want to
Okay.
thank people for watching. Lots of people watching today from everywhere. Lots of Twitter people, lots of YouTube people. Um, you know, cost to maintain a giant power lines when there's 3 inches of ice. They actually, when they had that Texas ice storm or whatever a few years ago, they actually almost had a critical situation with one of their nuclear power plants because the cooling ponds froze up, and
Wow.
which seemed crazy because they're producing hot water, right?
They're producing a lot of hot. That's all they're doing is producing hot
Yeah.
water.
So I was kind of confused about this. I don't,
Yeah, that
like I
makes no
said,
sense.
I'm not the nuclear physicist. My
Yeah.
business partner is. But it's interesting seeing some of this. It's like they've got hot water right there. Can't they just
Yeah,
shoot the
just
hot
put it
water?
on it.
Yeah, and fix that,
I
and
actually saw a drone recently. I think it was in Japan where they was having this freezing on these high transmission lines, and they built a robot that goes along that thing and it sprays and melts it and chips it off, and that's all it does is go back and forth to make sure that there's no ice on those lines. It's just a
oh,
drone,
nice.
and it's like there's solutions to problems. Let's get them knocked out.
Yeah, I know over in India for solar panels, they have like robotic arms that go along and dust them off.
Dust them off. Yeah, never let
Yeah,
it build up. Yeah.
yeah. No, but yeah, there's some things,
Yes,
they
solution.
avoided a real bad nuclear accident during
Yeah.
that thing. And they said it was, I don't know how close we really were to it
Yeah.
getting to be really, it was an emergency, but does that mean it wasn't going to turn into Chernobyl? Okay.
Yeah.
And this is one of the funny things is I'm trying to promote fourth generation nuclear energy, but your problems are all running on these second generation nuclear facilities. And so
Mhm.
it really, people's taste for second gen nuclear or distaste for it is
Yeah.
constantly hurting it
Yeah.
away. And there's been really 4 bad nuclear incidents. One of them happened in 1957 in Soviet Russia, and it happened in a place where there was no population. So it never hit until 1991. Nobody knew about it. Nobody in the
Wow.
West ever knew about that it happened. But of course, you had Chernobyl. We all figured that out because
Oh my God, that. Yeah.
what's all this radiation coming from? Anyways,
Mm.
they probably knew also from spy satellites. I
Mm.
suspect, there's probably a lot of activity that probably people like, what's going on here at this Chernobyl site, kind of thing. But
Mhm.
still, that was a challenge. But when I talk about it, it's like, think about this. I mean, in Fukushima was only, no, they've never had a reactor problem on nuclear subs or aircraft carriers. Yeah,
I
but
thought the Russians did. Didn't the Russians have a nuclear
they've
meltdown on a
I don't know if they had a meltdown. I know they've lost nuclear subs a few times,
mm.
but we've lost a
Yeah.
couple
Yeah.
nuclear subs. We
Yeah.
lost the Thresher and the Scorpion. But yeah, but there hasn't been a meltdown. Any issues they ever had was like the usual submarine problems. Although there's questions as to whether or not the Soviets may have sunk those subs.
Mhm.
So there's always been kind of some weirdness. The Soviets thought maybe we sunk one of their subs,
Yeah.
and
Mm. Scary
there's
stuff.
some stuff we'll probably never know. But yeah, now the Navy's really good at operating
Yeah.
nuclear reactors, and
Very safe.
so it's a different situation to think about. The Navy really takes the best and the brightest people when they give them that ASVAB test and they put them into the nuclear program. So yeah, my business partner in that space, he said he had like a perfect ASVAB score, which, and they put him in the nuclear program. Yeah. I don't know if that's correct or not. I always wondered, I don't know enough about the ASVAB to know if it's possible to have a perfect score. So anyways, but folks, thanks for watching. I'll be back on Tuesday, back with Bill. Otherwise, everybody have a great weekend. And Bobby, thanks so much for being my guest today.